Okay, this is just a quick intro to the video that follows. This is one of the videos for the students. So if you're not one of the students watching this, this is not going to be probably very interesting for you. But it's a video on how credit is created. The uploader that's embedded in my course software for this class is not functioning properly, so I'm going to upload this class video to YouTube. All right, so here we go. This will be attached onto that. Cheers, everybody. Stay safe. Turn that down for echo. Okay, so quick, we're going to try to keep this a little quicker because the second version of this I've made. The first one was like 12 minutes long, which was like too long and too boring. All right, so over there, you see I've got a different spreadsheet. This is very similar to a sheet that's already available on the Canvas page, but this one is better because it actually works, right? It's not just entries like the other little models we've made. This one, you can enter stuff and see what's going on. So I might pull down the other one. I don't know. We'll see, but we'll put this one up for sure. Anyway, if you haven't looked at the lecture for chapter 11 yet, please do so now. Now, because it's going to be hard to understand this. Okay, what this sheet does is shows how a fractional reserve system banks in a fractional reserve system can effectively create credit at will, right? And that the actions of banks as well as banking users or consumers like you and I also has the effect of destroying credit, tens of thousands of times every day. All right, so let's see how that works. All right, so this sheet over here, there we go, that one there, okay. I've just put two T accounts for two sort of generic banks. So here's Bank A and Bank B, right? Then there's a bunch of other stuff down here at the bottom: total credit creation, total purchasing power, monetary base, reserve requirements, and a leverage ratio. I'll explain all those each in turn. All right. So let's start with Bank A. So on the liability side of Bank A, we see a bunch of demand deposits. So these are just normal deposits of normal people like you and me, right? So I have a bank account, right? You probably have a bank account. Those deposits that we make into our bank accounts are called demand deposits because we can demand them. If I go to the bank, I'm like, gimme, they gotta give you. Okay, so it's a demand deposit. I've made some of those large, some of them small. Of course, real banks have tens of thousands of demand deposits. This bank has 5. Okay, just keep it simple, right? Okay, then on the asset side, the first entry I have is what's called reserve requirements. Okay, so we should know from the lecture that banks in a fractional reserve system have to keep a portion of their deposits on reserve, either in their vaults or at the Fed, right, which is the central bank of the United States. Now, quick note on that here. A week and a half ago, the Fed lowered reserve requirements to 0. I've never seen that before. I don't remember that ever happening in the United States before, so it's pretty extraordinary. That said, Canada has been operating with 0 reserve requirements since the early 1990s, so they've been able to manage it and make it work without creating any crises. But we're now there too. So, quick note on that. So how is this working? Well, you can see here that what we're doing is I've just created an entry here. We can change this. So if I want to make reserve requirements 20% rather than 10%, you notice that reserve requirements adjust, okay, in the sheet. So right now we've got reserve requirements set at 10%. So what cell B5 is doing is it's simply adding up the demand deposits and then multiplying it. So that's sum C5 to C11, and then multiplying it by whatever we're entering as the reserve requirement. In this case, 10%. Okay. Then down here so it's 259.2, right? Okay, so down here at the bottom, we've got a series of loans that this bank has made. These are just simple entries, right? We could throw another one in there. I think this is set up to work this way. Yes, it is. Okay, so if I make another loan, we can see it comes off the excess reserves there. Yeah. Okay, good. So we've said this bank has made three loans. Those are assets of the bank, right? Because they're payable to the bank. And then finally, the last thing on their balance sheet here is this idea of excess reserves. So excess reserves is essentially the financial resources that the bank has at its disposal at the moment. Okay, bank nerds will tell me there's a little bit more to it. Yeah. It's a little bit of an oversimplification there, but okay. So what that cell is doing is taking the sum of all demand deposits, which is money into the bank, right? So that's C5 through C11. It's subtracting off the required reserves, or what they can't do anything with, they have to hang on to, cell B5. And then also subtracting off the value of loans that have already been made, or sum of B10 to B13. And then spitting that number out, which it turns out to be 1232.8. All right. Now, here's where it gets a little weird, right? So I say, if you looked at the lecture again, if you haven't looked at it already, look at it now. Okay. He said in the lecture that all loans create other demand deposits, right? Okay. Well, it's really clear why that is here. So where do these loans go, right? Where do these loans go? Well, if we think about this as like your student loan or a car loan or whatever, like a car loan, you just got the check, right? And you gave it to the owner of the car and they cash it and put it in their bank, right? Absolutely. Okay. So what are we doing here with Bank B? Well, Bank B is just taking the total value of loans outstanding from Bank A and assuming their demand deposits in Bank B. So the assets of Bank B, the assets of Bank A are the liabilities of Bank B. We could also express it the other way. The liabilities of Bank B are the assets of Bank A. So if Bank B goes and blows it, right, loses all his money somehow, well, then those loans aren't getting repaid, and now Bank A is in trouble. Okay, so this is the idea of contagion that we talked about. This interlocking of banking balance sheets means that when one bank collapses, the likelihood of additional banks also collapsing becomes greater. All right. Reserve requirements is being calculated in the same way for Bank B. Excess reserves is also being calculated the same way. So if we say, plonk a loan here in Bank B, it adjusts accordingly. All right. So let's go down to the bottom here and keep trying to move as quickly as we can. Okay, so monetary base. Well, reserve requirements we already talked about. So monetary base, what is that? Monetary base is what normal people think of as money. Okay, so if I open my wallet up and pull some cash, that's monetary base. See, so monetary base is the currency in circulation plus the money in bank vaults and on reserve at the Fed, right? So it's all the hard money, stuff we normally think of as money. So what is this cell doing? Well, it's just adding that stuff up around the sheet. So it's adding up B5, B7, what are those? So it's reserve requirements, that's money in the vaults, right? It's excess reserves, that also happens to be in the vault at both banks. So that's what this is, right? So again, monetary base, sort of the stuff we normally think of as money. However, and here's where it gets a little crazy or crazier, right? Total purchasing power in this little system is 47.92. Why is that? Well, if I have a $100 deposit in a bank, that's a demand deposit. Can I write a check for $95? You're darn right I can. Okay, if I write a check for $95, that check's going to clear because I've got a $100 demand deposit. If I go to that same bank and I take out a loan for $100, can I spend that $100? Absolutely. That was the point of getting the loan. Okay, but the loan was drawn relative to my demand deposit. So you see, when the loan was issued to me for $100 worth of purchasing power was created from where? Nowhere. Okay, it was called into existence at that moment. All right, so if we look at all the loans outstanding in this system, as well as all the demand deposits in this system, we get total purchasing power, right? Because these people can spend this money. These people can spend this money. These people can spend this money. Clear? Okay. Now, this last box over here, or the first box, depending on how we look at it, total credit creation. This is credit that's been created by these banks, right? From where? From nowhere. Okay. Again, what are banks? Banks, the primary function of banks is they are gatekeepers of financial capital. So they have the ability to create credit or eliminate credit as they feel sound. Right? So their job is to look up for good, credit-worthy, profitable opportunities and to remove credit or to eliminate the credit from flowing to unprofitable or unfunctionable ideas. Okay, clear. All right, finally then I've got this box over here in the H column, leverage ratio. So this is just essentially how much purchasing power the financial system has created from the monetary base. So we think about the ratio of this to this, right? I'll do that again. This to this. Okay, right now it's 1.84. If this bank starts making some loans, like let's say $500, you notice that leveraging's going up because we've just raised purchasing power. We've just raised, I can see something's going wrong here in this thing with that monetary base. I'm going to have to look on that in a second. But we can see that that leveraging goes up because the banks created additional purchasing power from no change in monetary base, or shouldn't have been any change in monetary base. Okay, so that's how this works, right? Every time a loan is made, purchasing power and credit is created from effectively nowhere. And it works in reverse too. Anytime a loan is repaid, purchasing power and credit is effectively destroyed. Okay, so if all these loans are repaid, right, across the board, then the total purchasing power is going to collapse right back to whatever the monetary base is, right? So loans and credit creation are simply a leveraging on top of the existing monetary base. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.